the 19th of November of 1980, 2 men were killed and 6 were wounded in what was a hate crime, but also a cocaine-fueled rampage that targeted the gay community and also shocked the same community in Greenwich Village. Today, we are discussing the mass shooting of the Ramrod Bar. Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, and today we're going to be discussing the massacre at the Ramrod Bar in Greenwich Village, New York. Now, if you've never heard of this, it's because it was kind of like a hush-hush massacre that happened because it involves an off-duty police officer or transportation officer, however you want to look at it. It involves law enforcement. Now, the Ramrod Bar was once a very happy location. The Ramrod Bar was one of the places in New York where it was one of the most popular leather bars in 1973, but ultimately it shut down in 1980 after the shooting that occurred. Now, if you know the song YMCA by the Village People, if you ever see the music video, the club that's behind them is the Ramrod Bar. And it's great that we have something that we can see as a remembrance of this bar, because what transpired is something that people forget on a daily basis, hence why I'm covering this for Pride Month. At this time in politics, gay rights was not a thing. More specifically, sexual activity outside of a marriage, which is what a lot of people had a problem with, was a bad no-no, and a lot of things were like, if you're not in a traditional relationship, if you're not in a traditional marriage, we don't want you. Now, Ronald Reagan was just elected president on the promises of bringing the country back to putting Americans back to work and rebuilding a world and restore the traditionalized values that people wanted. So the woman at home with the children and the men working. But as we know, the world changes. Like now, I believe that there's a lot more stay-at-home dads than there are stay-at-home moms, which is really cool. And whether it's a working dad and a stay-at-home dad, or a working mom and a stay-at-home mom, or they're both working, society changes. And unfortunately, Ronald Reagan was elected under false pretenses, because it's not just him that wants to bring the traditional life back. The House and the Senate also wanted to do the same thing. There is now a giant majority reversal where Republicans are now in control of the Senate and the House, or they're in control of the House, and now Democrats don't have control of anything. So it's one of those things in times in life where everything is kind of up in the air, kind of like how our society has been in the last few years. So, also going around the House was a bill that would criminalize attacks against gay people, which was quickly like, we don't want that because they're not a part of our society. That's how the world was. And unfortunately for Ronald Reagan and for every politician at the time, they did not know what was coming. And this is one of the attacks in our history that helped push gay rights further, because gay rights was not a thing at all. So also what is good to know is that the emergence of the LGBT community was on the rise. And also the other thing that was on the rise was AIDS. AIDS was rising in the 1980s, and there was a lot of riots when it came to the LGBT community that was happening in New York, and this was because there was a lot of pushback with the traditional versus the non-traditional lifestyle that people wanted. The emergence of the LGBT community was so important at this time because it really gave us more of a diverse way of life. People could now understand that it's not just a man and a woman, it's a man and a man, it's a woman and a woman. Or it's a trans person, trans being, and another trans being together. We were finally getting that first real look at how diverse life can be, and it's not just some cookie cutter life. It's not. Every time there's a change in society or equality is wanted for a specific group, there's always pushback and there's always issues. And issues that arise from these situations, there's always, like, it always stems from an emergence of a new group. Look at what happened with the BLM movement or further emergence of women's rights. Like, anytime something happens, there's always riots, there's always pushback, because it's forcing a change on people that people of such traditionalized views can't handle it. And that's why there's always violence when it comes to these things. And unfortunately, that is what would happen. Now, fears of hatred and murder would finally become realized when a former New York City Transit Authority cop, Ronald K Crumpley, targeted gay men in Greenwich Village. And this happened on November 19th of 1980. He used 2 stolen handguns and then proceeded to open fire on 2 men that were simply at a deli on the corner of Washington and 10th Street. Now, to get avoided from being shot, they ended up ducking behind some vehicles that were parked. He then proceeded to go to the Ramrod Club, which was or the Ramrod Bar at 394 to 395 West Street between 10th and Christopher, of which was 2 blocks away from he started shooting at the deli. Now, he emptied his Uzi's extended magazine into the crowd, and this is when he killed Vernon Croning and Jorg Wentz. There was 4 other men that were shot and injured at the scene. Crumpley then shot and injured 2 more men at Greenwich and 10th Street, and this is where he would ultimately be apprehended. Ronald K Crumpley was the son of a very prominent Harlem preacher. Now, his father believed that gay men were agents of the devil and that his son would be followed by hundreds of gay men and that they were looking at him so they could steal his soul. Now, this ideology was passed on to Ronald, and this is what they used as a basis for him of a psych defense, basically. So, after he was arrested, he was tried with murder, and when he went to trial, they found out that the rampage was partly due to psychosis because of his many years of drug abuse and his verbal abuse of his father. Now, he was found not guilty of murder and attempted murder due to mental disease or defect. He ultimately would stay in a secure psychiatric facility for the rest of his life, of which he died in 2015. So that, my friends, is the Rampage at the Ramrod Bar in Greenwich Village, New York. I know a lot of you have not heard of this case. That's why I wanted to cover it. There is a few more that I want to cover that are not so known, and then I do have some that are very well known that I want to cover because they are so prominent for this community. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you guys tomorrow in a brand new video.